Warning. The following is extremely addictive content. The original Savage Podcast may cause increased levels of success, happiness, and completely transform your life. You've been warned.
Welcome, everybody. It is the first episode of the original Savage Podcast, brand new podcast for me, and I am so excited to be here. Obviously, if you know me, you know we've had a podcast in the past, and it was super successful, and I just can't wait to get this new product out to you guys. And today, I have one of my favorite guests from last time. Alex is back, and I just can't wait for you guys to hear what she has to say. I know that she challenges me sometimes and doesn't let me just ramble on, so it's awesome to have somebody that has a different perspective. So, Alex, why don't you introduce yourself and just kind of give the audience a brief overview of who you are?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. Episode 1, I'm honored. So for those of you guys that don't know who I am, my name is Alex Garzaro. I am a mom married to my high school sweetheart. I have a formal education in cognitive behavioral psychology. I have a love and a passion and a business. I have multiple businesses, but my primary business is in fitness, and I also mentor a lot of high performers. So kind of well-rounded. I'm excited for this conversation.
Awesome. I cannot wait either. So, I know last time we got into all different kinds of stuff. And guys, if you want to listen to that one, I'm going to link the old podcast down in the description so you can hear her real story and background. And oh man, it's pretty powerful. So, get your tissue box or something. I don't know, notepad, tissue box. You gotta have your lighter too. She said you should journal and then burn it. It's a whole story, guys. Don't worry about it. But yeah. So today, we want to really talk about those high achievers and those people that want to make that change, transformation, whether it's in their career, whether it's in their body, whether it's health wise, whatever it is. Really, we're here to talk about how to really make that change and make it lasting, right? So I want to hear from you, somebody that's been on the coaching side, worked with entrepreneurs, worked with high achievers, but also been in the fitness industry, and that's obviously all about change and striving for excellence, right? For you, what would you say is like the number one thing that when somebody wants to make a change, what is the catalyst that makes real change happen and somebody to be able to take it to that next level of success?
There's a few things that are actually the catalyst. So for many, many individuals, it's going to be what I call this breakthrough moment. It's almost kind of like when the bomb hits. So we have these gradual effects that happen over time, and we kind of understand that they're there, but we don't become aware of them until like this huge thing happens in our lives. And then it's almost like it pushes us into this shift. So I call it your breakthrough moment. So with my own fitness career, it was a moment where my two little boys were under 2, and I was sitting on the sofa and they wanted me to come play with them on the floor. And I didn't want to. I was fatigued. I was tired. It was this whole thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, is this the mom that I'm going to be? And that question alone was like my breakthrough moment. And I can tell you that the month and year was September of 2011 that, set me on the course of transforming my body. There's like these moments that just happen where you're just like, you're over where you're at. And then there's moments where you have this fire, this anger, you can call it anger, that becomes this drive because you now can see the potential within yourself because you've seen it in somebody else. And it makes you angry and it becomes a driving factor. So there's a lot of different things that can actually be a catalyst to that momentum that you need to make the shift. But the one thing that I think connects them all is honest truth with yourself. Becoming so brutally honest with yourself in where you are, the decisions you made, the choices that you've made, and the actions correlating to all those things that have led you to this moment. You know where you lack in action. You know the decisions that you didn't take because you were scared, fearful. Maybe if you even sat with yourself, you'd see that you were on the path of the success, but you pulled yourself back unknowingly. And this happens with a lot of individuals because there's a subconscious reaction of, if I actually become successful, I have no idea what that looks like because I have no one to compare it to. there's a big, big fear that shifts you back into actually what they call the self sabotage and self sabotaging yourself so that you can't move forward. So let's be honest. What have you actually been doing? If you truly want to make a change, what have you actually done to make that change? And if the answer is honestly nothing, then that's okay. But that's the truth. Like nothing. I see a lot of entrepreneurs who want to be successful in social media. And I'm like, cool. How much effort are you actually putting in your content? Well, I post daily and I create my reels day by day. I'm like, so none. So no effort. Because effort means research. It means putting together the idea. It means looking at the idea. It means auditing the idea. It means actually having the whole concept put together before even creation, right? God did this. He was like, cool. You know what? I'm going to create a world. Day 1, boom. Day 2, day 3. He didn't say, boom, day 1, here it is. He said, I'm going to give myself 7 days. And yet here we are wanting to be so successful on social media and taking an hour to put together a piece of content. So be brutally honest with yourself. What are you really doing?
Yeah. No, I mean that honest that I would say that that's probably the first step in real change. Of course, you've got to make the decision, right? Hey, I want to change this because of I'm sick and tired of seeing this person that I feel like I can compete with doing this or this whatever. All of those steps, 100% those happen. I think that that's a longer lead up, the breakthrough moment of starting to think about doing something different. And obviously, it takes a lot. It For different people, it's going to take different time, right?
Yep.
Some people, it's going to be a 2 day thing. Some people, it's going to be a 2 year thing, like before they actually put the action in. And and so I think all of the those things build to it, but I really think that that is where it starts. Is that honesty, right?
Mhm.
It is understanding who you are, where you're at, and what you're going to do, but being honest with yourself, because the only person you have to do to let down is yourself. I literally had this conversation with my son yesterday. Is he wanted to go practice basketball, and I said, okay, cool, go outside and do X, Y, and Z. Come back in when you're done. He came back in, and I said, did you really do it? I said, the only person you're cheating is yourself. I don't care if you keep going outside and practicing, but if you didn't make the 5 shots in a row from the same spot and you're coming in and telling me that you did, you're cheating yourself, not me. I'm not trying to get better at basketball. You're trying to get better at basketball. So
Mhm.
it's about that honesty and making that change right then and being honest with yourself and understanding that, hey, the only person you're going to let down by lying to yourself is you.
Mhm. 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And so I think that is really the key to where it starts. Like you said, I mean, that honesty with yourself. And, that leads me into another point is I think personally, the reason that a lot of the trainings and stuff that are out there that kind of fail, it's because they neglect individuality and perspective or perception, whichever way you want to say it. And for me, it's really the perception part, right? And the perspective part. How do you actually see yourself? Because are you being honest with how you see yourself? Or are you being honest with what you want people to see when they look at you?
So I agree. I think there's kind of a race to creating programs, and a lot of the programs out there and a lot of the trainings out there are very simplified. I'll be nice about it. And they recycle a lot of the same information. And it's up to you to decode the information. But in order for you to decode the information, you first have to understand yourself. Just like you said, if you don't understand yourself and what you truly desire, you will get pulled into a whirlwind of all these things that you could do and all these things that are working for individuals. You see, with training programs and courses, they're not meant for you to necessarily do things A, B, and C. They're meant for you to have an understanding of A and then translate A to your own business or your own life. And that's where I think it's both parties misunderstanding. Yes, it's the course and the training marketing the fact of like this is personalized and you can achieve X, Y, and Z. And then it's the individual's lack of self-awareness and direction. You see, nobody can give you your own clarity and nobody can give you your direction and nobody can give you your passion. You first have to understand that yourself before even trying to go and expand that. And so a lot of individuals are trying to find more so validation than strategy, but aren't aware of that. So if you're struggling in a course or if you're struggling in a training, it's because you're lacking in yourself and understanding who you are and what your vision is and what your mission is and what you're trying to do in this world. Because until you understand that, you cannot take any strategy from Google, from YouTube, from any course that you pay for and translate that to your ability and to your success and to all of that. So there is a big lack in both parties, I think, when it comes to training and courses, self awareness, perception. And so, yeah, I really think that when we're coming into this stuff, we just have to realize that the world is way different than what it used to be. And we have to start to look at things more in depth. But before we look at things outside of ourselves, we have to look within ourselves.
I like what you said, and really that's one of the points too that I love is there's in my opinion there's four perspectives in an interaction between two people. There's how you see yourself and how you see the other person, how they see themselves and how they see you. Right? There's four different perspectives that we're working with. So like you said, it's on both parties. Is
Mhm.
you have to understand who's viewing, and as the viewer, you have to understand who's pitching and selling. But one of the things that I really want to dive into that you talked about, and you talked about this last time too, and I don't think I picked up on it enough last time, is the validation, the search for validation. When a lot of people are, and I don't know if you call it a search for validation, but the wanting to feel validated when they're taking training courses or when they're doing this reading this book. They want to feel validated, like, oh, tell me that what I've been doing is right, right? That's
Mhm.
I want to hear you dive a little bit more into that validation part of the training process and that thought process.
Validation, what it is it's a safety mechanism. It's a coping mechanism. So if we've gone through and I'm talking, 90s 80s babies, 90s babies here. We were raised on, get A's in school. We were raised on you know, doing things perfectly. We are raised on don't talk until it's your turn. All these little things that created this structure for you kind of being quiet. And even like, let's just say you were in a classroom and let's say you raised your hand to give an answer and that answer was wrong and the whole class laughed. Like all of these things were so strong in developing who we are that it affected our nervous system. Okay. And so when it affects our nervous system, the wall that we have inside of our brain saying, like, anything beyond this wall, like, I got to protect, that wall starts to tear itself down. And so, the more things that are thrown at you that tear that wall down, the more, subjective you are to not having security in yourself. That's why you see people who are just like so confident, right? Muhammad Ali, like, I am the champ. Like he had no, I am the champ. Like this is who I am. Like there's people like that that really talk themselves up and they believe it wholeheartedly. And you can see it. You can see it within them. And then there's other individuals that, they'll say it, but you don't feel the same intensity. And that's because there's this wall that was created from all these experiences that now they have to get through, right? It was pierced and it's affected. So when they're trying to do something, like, let's just say, you know, I'm telling you, I want to lose weight. Well, the people around you probably aren't going to, believe you because you haven't shown them any previous experience that you've been able to lose weight. So they may laugh, right? They may be like, yeah, here we go again. Like that simple comment is then going to defeat you, right? But if you had validation, like, yeah, you got this, right? You're not going to have the insecurity anymore of wanting to, or actually taking action to go for it. So that validation is not necessarily just something like within, it's also external in the fact of somebody validating your belief, validating your idea, validating your action so that you feel good about it. And then when you feel good about it, you're going to go and take action on it. But here's the thing, when you seek validation from outside yourself, when we are seeking validation from outside ourselves, it's because we have our own insecurities about who we are and what we're capable of. And we don't believe that what we believe or what we say or what we do is good enough. And so by you telling me, yeah, you got this, go girl, you give me the validation, motivate me, and then I go do it. And if I fail to do it, I can now say, well, you told me that I could do it, and see, I couldn't do it. And now I'm going to blame you. So seeking outside validation can be very beneficial, but it can also be very unbeneficial, because I can then blame you because you validated me. And so I didn't follow through, and I wasn't able to achieve what I said I was going to achieve, and you said that I could, and now I'm just like, here I am again, right? So validation runs really deep, and it really stems from like a lot of different things on why we need it, how we even develop the lack of validation in ourselves, and how we utilize it afterwards, right? Are you somebody who has enough growth to not blame the other individual who did validate you and motivate you? Are you somebody who has enough growth that if you feel triggered by failing after somebody gave you validation, to come to them and say, hey, I know you said this and it made me feel this because I failed, versus blaming them, right? So validation really runs in so many different directions, and it's such a deep dive. You kind of really have to first identify, am I lacking self-validation? And lacking is not a bad thing. Many of us do. Many of us lack it because of how we were raised. But if you do lack it, then it is your job and your responsibility to find a way for you to earn that back, to kind of gain your own validation and not seek it from outside. Okay. So again, until you have that, you will constantly be seeking outside sources. This is why, we go back to kind of being upset with a course and a training not giving me what I needed, right? Well, what was I doing when I paid for that course? What was I doing when I paid for that coach? All I'm doing is seeking outside validation. I'm seeking outside support. We already know everything is on Google. You can achieve anything and everything with the search engine. YouTube, Google, we have it all. Now we have AI, like it's all there. So why do we really seek humans to work with? Why do we seek trainings developed by humans? Because we respect them, because we see them as an individual who has achieved something that we desire to achieve, and an individual who has characteristics that we truly desire to have, right? And so then when we understand that, we can look at that individual and say, okay, they put together this course based off of where they are in life, based off of where they, are coming from. Their mission is not quite my mission, which means I'm going to have to retranslate some of this stuff. No problem. But what I really want is to be in their world. I'm paying to be in their world and to be around them, because if they were able to accomplish this and they were able to achieve that and they have these characteristics, well, we all know you're, what is the saying? You're like the 5 people you hang out with, right?
Yeah.
So if I am in their world, I am going to start possessing their characteristics. I'm going to start to behave very similarly. I'm going to start to believe in very similar ways. Right. And so that is why it's important to choose properly who you're investing in and what course you're investing in. Because in reality, And I know a lot of us don't realize this because we are seeking, again, outside sources. So we're thinking, oh, I want to get better at content. Oh, I want to lose weight. I want to do this. But what you're really doing subconsciously is you're choosing somebody that you want to emulate and you want to have them help you develop the skills that they have for yourself. And
Yeah,
they
that
will.
makes so much sense.
Yeah, they will if
And,
you allow them to.
and I think that's too where that perspective comes into play is like, um, because when you're talking about validation up front, for me, it's like I was more thinking along the lines of seeking validation of, hey, I do it this way, and then the person saying, oh yeah, I've been doing it the same way. All right, I'm doing it the right way, right? And then there's the whole other level of just wanting the positive reinforcement validation
Mhm,
from the outside source of, hey, listen, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. That
mhm,
whole thing is a whole nother side of it. But again, it's just a different perspective, and I
mhm,
think that that's why podcasts and things like this are so important, and why I love doing it, and why I like having people that are not just like me and don't see things like just like me. I see the world differently. I know that. I've said that for a long time. It took me a while to realize it, but I've told this story a couple times in the last few days. It's like as far back as 6th grade, apparently I thought differently than everybody else because I got in an argument with Mr. Moore, my algebra teacher, and he said, "This is how you solve a problem." And I said, "No, I solved it this way. It's easier and faster." And then the whole class said, "Josh's way's faster." And so it at the time I just thought I was good at math, but now I realize it's because I see things differently and process information differently. And so again, it's about that, perspective and having a different perspective and surrounding yourself with different perspectives so that again, like you said, right? It's not really the information because the information's out there, right? There's like
mhm,
you said, Google, AI, all these things. It's about having the people that can process the information in different ways and then package it in a way that is meaningful to you, right?
mhm,
It's about having that person that you connect with. You can have 4 different salespeople go to one client's house. Well, that client's eventually going to pick one of the 4 because they connect with that person the most. And that's why I
mhm,
say perception is so important to align all the perceptions because it's about having that, for lack of a better word, that vibe between the two people where they just get it. And in my opinion, it's because everything's aligned. It's because those perceptions are aligned, whether it's because you're confident or whether it's because you're not and you own it. You're like, hey, listen, I'm not the most confident person. And that's okay. As long as that's how they see you and they
yeah,
know that you will work harder than anybody because you're not overconfident, then that's okay, right? And so it's so I love when you start talking about stuff because again, it's a different perspective than the things that I have. And as you start talking, like what I thought at the beginning that you were saying ends up being something totally different. And so that's why I let you just keep going because it again, it just keeps spinning the wheels in my head of like and transforming what it even meant from the
mhm.
beginning to the end. It transforms just from the 2 minutes that you talk in certain sectors, and that's why I absolutely love hearing your perspective on those things.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to like certain aspects like perspective and validation, it's such a wide spectrum that you will get a lot of different opinions and different ideas and it also again, stems from your experiences. That's really where everything stems from. It stems from our upbringing, our experiences, our traumas, our excitements, all those things, our successes. Like it all packages it in together in how you are thinking and how you operate and how you move in the world. And I really think that a lot of us think differently. We should all think differently, or else the world would be very boring, right? But many of us don't speak what we're thinking. You just happen to be conditioned to speak your truth. And your parents probably praised you for that and they probably encouraged that, right? Whereas others, they
No, I
weren't
was the troublemaker.
encouraged. They weren't encouraged. They weren't, and so that could have been, that was your thing then. So standing out, voicing your opinion, whether it was going to be good or bad. My husband's very much like that. He calls himself the black sheep of the family because he would literally get into arguments for the sake of the argument. And I'm like, that makes sense. You know,
Yeah, I was
because
I was the arguer, and then my brother ended up being the lawyer. Everybody thought I was gonna be the lawyer because they said, "Hey, you'll argue with the wall," and now
yeah,
my brother's the lawyer and not me, so it's kind of funny.
yeah. And really let's break that down. What does it mean to need what's the need that needed to be met when doing that?
Having people listen to my opinion, I guess. If I think about it now, yeah, probably it's like, hey, listen, I'm gonna argue because I feel like my opinion's right, and you need to listen to it.
Hey, I'm here. I'm here too. See me, look at me, hear me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, everything we do has a meaning behind it, a deeper rooted meaning than what we really think about. Right. So it was you seeking attention for whatever. And not that it's bad or good, but I'm just saying, like, deeper meaning from breaking it down, it sounds like you were seeking attention. And the way that you got the attention was to have these conversations, these passionate conversations with individuals. And so you got your acknowledgement, you received the attention, and that continued you down the path to have these conversations, these
Yeah,
passionate
absolutely.
conversations.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm still to this day super passionate, obviously,
Yeah.
whenever I talk about things, and I get
Yeah.
animated because that's how I've always been, and yeah, my brother is more reserved, so I'm the second child, so some people say second child syndrome, whatever, right?
Mhm.
And it is, you're right, it transforms it, but it's about taking, again, being honest with yourself, like we talked about before, right? Being honest with yourself and understanding your strengths and your weaknesses,
Yeah.
and then taking that and allowing a shift in your mindset to use those things for the better, right?
Mhm.
And that's what I say all the time. Is like, you just have to understand, individuality is not a bad thing. Weaknesses are not a bad thing. It's just about understanding how everything works together to then paint this picture of success, right? Success doesn't look the same for everybody. There are plenty of people that are athletes that could not play other sports, right? And there's other
Mhm.
people out there that have never played a professional sport that are probably just as athletic as some athletes, but it just wasn't there. Either it was they didn't ever have the correct mindset, or it just wasn't built for them, and they're super happy doing what they're doing because that's what, you know is important to them. So it's about just aligning the mindset with your strengths, with the honesty, with the internal honesty, and also, making sure that you surround yourself with people that are going to benefit from having you around, and that you're going to benefit from having them around. And
Mhm.
that's what's really going to take you to a next level, whether that's an assistant, a VA, whatever it might be in your career path, but then also friends and mentors and things like that on the life journey and the happiness side. And it's about aligning all of those things. And I know you're a big, make it happen in the universe kind of girl. And so, I know you're a big believer in what you put out, and all that stuff too. So, I really think it's just about all that aligning your strengths, your weaknesses, your honesty, your perspective. It's just, everything is about aligning your mindset to be able to take you to where you want to be or where you deserve to
Yeah. Your mindset is one thing, but I think more so it's going to be your emotions, because excitement and fear are the same emotion, right? But then it's the thoughts that go with that, right? So there's two ways to look at this, and it's kind of been like an argument of like, change your mind, you change your emotional state, right? So if I say that I'm happy, then I can feel the excitement in my body. If I say that I'm sad, then I can feel the sadness in my body. But what if, like, you didn't realize that that sadness is the same feeling as like as happiness in your body, right? Excitement and fear, same emotion, sweaty palms, you know, the heat in your body, all the same thing, right? So we're triggered many, many times, not mentally, we're triggered emotionally, right? So let's say you get angry and the first thing that you want to do is be like, F this person. They're stupid. I hate them, right? So changing your mind would be like, yeah, you know what? It is what it is. But what if you didn't have to, like, what if you could control your emotions? And so you didn't have to go through that anger state. What if somebody came to you and you got, rather than getting angry, like originally, you were just neutral and calm. And then it came out that way, right? There was no feeling in your body. Like you were able to regulate your emotional state in your nervous system to just kind of like take whatever they're saying and process it instead of having to go through like the mental of like, F this guy, never mind. F this guy, never mind. Right? So the brain can go up and down with all these thoughts and opinions, and then your emotions will naturally go with that if you allow it to. But if you learn to regulate your emotions, you're going to regulate your thought process. Right? So if my body never gets angry, then how will my thoughts get angry? They're not. Right?
You're gonna have
So
to take this one. I'm not super emotional. I'm pretty even keeled. I mean, yeah, I'm passionate about things. I get fired up, but
yeah,
emotion wise, listen, I'm about as emotionally intelligent as that bottle of water I keep drinking because
and not a
I'm
lot of
not.
people are.
I'm not the super emotional guy. So like, it's a whole like I'm learning over here, right? Like
It's a whole other world.
that's not my cup of tea. That's not my area of expertise by any
Yeah.
means. Is that because you're saying like the fear and excitement are the same thing, and like for me, it's like okay, yeah, I can see that. Like the whole from like again an athlete perspective of like the clutch gene, right? Some
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
thrive in the moment, some people shy away from the moment. Okay, I can
Yeah.
get that one. That one makes sense, right? But then like the what if as soon as somebody comes to you, you get super angry and I'm like, well, I don't really get angry in most situations, like unless somebody's like threatening my family or whatever. Then that's a fight or flight type of situation. But so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like this is all new stuff to me. Is like because again, I'm a big like change your mindset type of guy. Talk about that a lot, and like for
Mhm.
again, this whole perspective of changing emotions and recognizing emotions differently or recognizing that they're happening, shut them down kind of situation. Again, whole different ball game for me, and I think that thinking about performance, it is something like that. It
Mhm.
is. I remember they always talked about or they would talk about Tiger Woods and say, "Hey, do you still get nervous on the first tee?"
Mhm.
And he said, "Yes, because if you
Mhm.
don't get nervous, you don't care."
Yep.
Right? And so I think from a performance anxiety, it's learning to be excited. Now that I think about it, now that you talk about it, now that I think
Mhm.
about it, I have read plenty of stuff about it. It's just getting excited to be in that moment. Like if your heart's not pounding, then you're not in contention. It doesn't matter. You have no chance of winning. That's why your heart's not pounding.
Yeah.
You're not excited because it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. And if you really pay attention, your emotions will come before your mind. Your emotions will come before your thoughts. And so your emotions will dictate the thought, right? So if the emotion when somebody's heightening their voice and elevating and getting kind of more aggressive, if you were just like, "Okay, so what are you trying to tell me?" Or, "Go ahead and calm down and I'll talk to you in a minute." You're regulating your emotions, and then what happens is you start to regulate theirs because you're calm and neutral, and your mind's like your mind never goes to like, oh, he's angry because of me, oh, I did something, oh, this, oh, that. Like there's no thoughts of that because your
Yeah, I
emotional
mean
state
that's what's yeah, I mean people talk about
stays
that too.
neutral.
Like it's like
Yeah.
being emotionally clear so you can make clear
Mhm.
decisions, right?
Yeah.
Like getting your emotions out of the way so that you can make clear decisions. Like you're, and that's saying the same thing is that emotions come first and then thoughts come second. So if you want to make a clear, rational decision, you've got to get
Regulate.
rid of,
Yep.
yeah,
Huge. Regulate your emotions before you make the thought so that the thought can have clarity in the action. And you're not taking action out of an emotional state. And then
yeah.
that's when we're actually in a place of making the moves that we truly want to make.
So now when we go back to the transformation process that we talked about earlier, you said there's this moment and then there's anger. So that's the
Mhm.
emotion.
That's the emotion.
So we have to clear anger to then make a rational decision to change. Is that kind of the
Or you could utilize it, right? Because anger
okay?
and excitement's the same thing.
Okay.
So it's how we transition it in our mind, right? So if I get angry, like let's just say I saw a friend, right? So let's say in my friend circle, I was the fittest one. And then I haven't seen my friend circle in a year. And then all of a sudden I see my friend circle and I'm the fattest one. I'm going to get angry at myself. And I'm going to get angry at the situation, right? And I can let that anger paralyze me and just kind of keep it in and not say anything and just keep it moving, right? Or I can acknowledge the anger, right? We talked about this. You got to be brutally honest with yourself. Why am I angry? Why am I angry right now? Because I let myself get here. Because I used to be fit and I'm not now. So we can transition that anger into motivation, right? We can start to regulate and we can transition any emotion that we want, right? If I'm angry, I can make that motivation. I don't have to make it hate. I don't have to make it frustration. I can turn that into motivation and I can turn it into my drive. The choice is yours. How
So
you
all
use
these
it,
women out here hating on Taylor Swift, they're going to turn it into motivation and go
if they
land themselves an NFL player, right?
if they choose to. I truly believe we can have anything in this world. We can be anybody we choose to, but we have to choose it, right? One of the big things that holds people back from transformation is the overwhelm of a choice, right? It's
Mm.
why we're sitting on our sofas for 2 hours trying to find a movie on Netflix. So many choices. What
But then
cook
you got to
do
switch to Hulu. Then you got to
I
check out Hulu. You got to check Prime out after that.
You see what I'm saying? Like it's the overwhelm of the choices. And that's really what's holding a lot of us back. It's not the course being shitty. It's not this, it's not that. It's the fact that we lack the action. It's the fact that we've had the breakthrough moment. It's the fact that we've had the anger and we did nothing with it. Right? We didn't even audit it. We didn't even analyze it. We didn't even accept it. We didn't even become aware of it. We just moved on. It's like, oh yeah, oh yeah, I'm angry. I can't believe he lost all that weight. And I'm still here 30 pounds heavier than what I used to be. That sucks. Or I could say, oh my gosh, if he could do it and I did it once, I could do it again. Heck yeah, let's go. Let's hit the gym and take action. Choice is yours, but make a choice because there is no wrong choice. If you get into a bad program in your eyes, right? We're calling it a bad program, but a bad course because I didn't get anything out of it. Guess what? You did get something out of it. You got the understanding of the fact that the person you chose is not the type of person that you actually want to become. You got the fact of understanding that the course that you went into was not the material that you needed at the time. And you will take that information and you will actually utilize it probably later on in life. But whatever choice you make, we needed to make that choice. But if you make no choice, then you're not going to move forward. You're going to stand still. We have to make the choice, accept our choice, go all in. We can't be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You have to be all in with every choice that you make. This is why Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift. This is why The Rock is The Rock. This is why Muhammad Ali is Muhammad Ali. It's not that they had anything special. It's not that they had any privileges. It's that they made a choice, they had a mission, and they stayed focused on it, and they held true no matter what came their way. And rather than having a pity party saying, like, I can't believe I invested this, I don't have any more money, I can't do this, I can't do that, da da da, and utilize that anger and fell into the paralysis of doing nothing after that. No, they said, okay, this is what happened. This is what went bad. Okay, I can't do that again. Let me do this. Okay, that worked. Let me continue doing that and then add to that. Okay, let me make this choice. They continue to make choices, whether that choice moved them forward or it made them grow. Either one,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And I think too, like, it is becoming the societal norm of, like, everybody wants it done for them, right?
Mhm.
Scroll through Facebook ads. There are going to, especially if you're an
Oh, yeah.
entrepreneur or a business owner and have ever looked into any kind of business opportunity,
Yep.
Facebook or YouTube or whatever, you're going to get an ad for, hey, I'll build you an Amazon business. Hey, I'll build you a faceless YouTube channel. Hey,
Mhm.
I'll do this for you. Hey, like, right. It's all of the business in a boxes where they do it for you. And but not just in business, but in life, we're so used to everything being done for us. Fast food, it gets cooked for us, right? Everything gets done for us that we're programmed almost at this point to not make those decisions. Like you
Mhm.
said, scrolling through Netflix and then, whatever other streaming services you got and just not making that choice.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, from a perspective of, not really understanding emotions, my personal emotions or whatever, or not acknowledging them in certain situations, it is one of those things where, for me, I see the first step as making a choice. But really, I'm sure that there was the emotion there.
Mhm.
I just choose to move on from it quickly because
Mhm.
I'm just more of an even keel type of person when it comes to emotions. It's like,
Mhm.
so I don't really acknowledge it, and that probably holds me back in some certain
100%.
situations for sure.
Because you can't
Absolutely. And
understand why you're making that choice. You need to
right.
understand why you're making that choice to be able to accept the choice, to be able to go all in. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole thing, is it's like seeing why you're doing it is going to make the journey a lot easier.
Mhm.
Understanding why you're doing it is going to put that motivation there, not just because, like, oh, hey, I told myself I was going to do this.
Yeah.
It's more
Mhm.
of, I'm doing it because of this specific, you know,
Yeah.
breaking point, like you called it earlier, that breaking point, or that, that inflection point, and then the emotion, and then, the other steps that came behind it. For me, when I think of something, it's like, well, I told myself I was going to do it, right? But that's really not where it is. And so, obviously now my eyes are a little more open, and I'm gonna have to go back and, like, reflect on some things. Man, I'm gonna be quiet over here for a couple minutes over here, just like thinking
Audit.
about pondering life or something.
Audit everything. We audit our money. Well, you should. I should say not all of us, but you should audit your money, right? We do our taxes
This
every
is not a
year.
financial advice
This is
podcast.
not,
I am
yeah,
I am licensed, but it's not a financial advice
it is
podcast.
not a
Everybody,
financial.
disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. Just kidding.
But why are we not auditing our choices? Why are we not auditing our thoughts? Why are we not auditing our emotions? Everything that actually we utilize to create our reality. No, we just accept them and we just dismiss them and we move on.
Let Oof, man, there's two pieces I want to talk about there. Auditing your thoughts is the first one. And auditing your thoughts, like, I think that especially in a performance situation, again, whether it's career, athletics, life, whatever it might be, I think that is beyond overlooked, as far as
100%.
how did you think in that situation, when, whether the performance was good, whether the performance was bad, what was going through your mind? So I coach my son's baseball team. Obviously, athletics are important in my life, and in my family's life, but I coach these kids and I tell them all the time, it's like, practice is time to think, game is time to react. We practice, we practice, we practice. It's all fundamentals. Then it's time to react. However, and obviously 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds, we're not going to go like super in depth into like, hey, what were you thinking at the plate that
Yeah.
time? But you know, an adult's life, it's the same thing. It is still, hey, it's time to react when you get into this performance situation. But if it did go the way you wanted it to, what were you thinking in that moment? If it didn't go the way you wanted it to, what were you thinking in that moment?
Hmm.
So that you can go back and make it better, right? That's the whole point of, you know, practicing under pressure. Whether it's a sales situation, a marketing situation, a leadership situation, because even in even in a leadership role, you're going to get put in a pressure situation. You're going to have a performance review, a big presentation in front of the CEOs or the board members or whatever it might be.
Hmm.
How do you perform in that pressure situation? Because that pressure is what creates diamonds. Let's go cliche,
Hmm.
but pressure is what takes you to the next level, right? That pressure builds up and it takes you to that next level, whether it's going from a lower college to a higher college educationally, whether it's performance in sports that takes you to the next level of the athletic community, whether it's going from a mid level to a C suite executive, you know, those things, those pressure situations, those are defining moments. You got to be ready for them before you ever get there. Because Eminem, you got one shot.
Hmm.
Don't, you know, Detroit Lions failed there, one shot. Sorry for anybody listening in Michigan, my bad. But you know,
Well,
it's those pressure situations, and
it's
auditing
also
your thoughts before you get there would be
it's
different.
also it's also so that you don't repeat, right? What's
Yeah.
insanity? Repeating the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. Well, yeah, because you're not thinking of what you should do differently.
Yeah.
And you're just accepting the fact of this works. No, this works. And you're beating a dead horse saying, like, yeah, but if I just go a little longer, go a little longer, go a little longer, it's going to work, right? Like, I just have to hold tight. There's moments where you need to trust the process. And then there's moments where you need to give up that process and go a whole new way.
Mm.
And so you need to understand the difference. And the only way to do that is with your audit, right? I just literally had this conversation with a friend of mine, and she was struggling with doing a lot of things. She's like, I keep going and I do fitness coaching and I do this MLM and I do mindset work and I do this and I have all these offers. I was like, you're going to sell nothing because you don't even know what you want. You need to take a minute and you need to audit what brings you joy and what makes you feel at your highest self. That's it. And I gave her those two. Sit with yourself. What brings you joy and what brings you to your highest self? And you have to remove everything else from the thought. Like the thinking of, well, if I do this, I'm going to make more money. No, so and so did that and made more money. So now you're telling yourself this story that because so and so made this much money doing that, that you'll make that much money doing that. No, not necessarily.
And
What
that's
brings
the
you joy?
emotion thing. Are you
That's the
are
emotion
you
thing.
worried about they made more money so it makes you angry and you want to and auditing the emotion of you saw them make more money? Is it just that you just want to make more money, or is it you want to do that and make more money or
Yeah.
achieve that?
Achieve that thing. Right. So literally had to have this whole conversation about like, what's the one thing you love? You see, one of the biggest things that actually stalls success is doing too much.
Absolutely, absolutely.
When you do too much, you stall your success. When you single focus on a whole thing, you execute and you move forward, and then you execute and you move forward. But if you continue to have all of these things, you're not going to move forward. And this doesn't just go in entrepreneurship. This goes, if you're working for somebody and you're trying to up level, right? If you're accepting too many things on your plate, you're going to falter and you're not going to be able to showcase your best work. If you can actually set boundaries, you're showing a bigger strength. You're showing a bigger leadership role by saying, hey, I have X, Y, and Z. I need to delegate these and I need to accept this because I know that I can execute on this and I know so and so can execute on this. Is it okay if we go ahead and split the work? Like you have to learn to not just accept what the world is telling you that you should do and or shiny object syndrome and going after something just because you think that it's going to bring you what that person has from it.
Oh,
And this
I just
goes
had this same conversation with one of my team members that I train, and it's the exact same thing. She's like, "Well, I'm not achieving the sales that I want to achieve," and it's like, "Okay, well, let's go through your process." She's like, "Well, I do outreach on Tuesdays.
okay.
That's it. Just on Tuesdays. Well, I'm doing this on Wednesday and this on Thursday. Well, you're missing the boat because when they respond on Wednesday and you don't get back to them until next Tuesday, you're gone, right? And that's what, like you said, if you're in this sales organization and this company and this company and this company, you can only reach out. You can only do so much outreach,
Yep.
and it's spread out. And so, of course, your success is not going to be there because you're not covering what you need to cover, and you're not being able to perfect your craft in each specific part.
Hmm.
And again, it goes back to your perception. How do people see you when they look at you and you tell them, you say, "Hey, what do you do?" Or you look at their LinkedIn page or whatever, and they see that you're just got like 47 different things going on. They're going to think you don't have time for me.
Hmm. Or what do you even do?
Yeah, they're not going to feel like you're an expert
Yeah.
or that you're just trying stuff or you're new or who knows what exactly they're going to think, but it's again, it goes down to perception.
Mhm. Yeah, perception is that's also a whole other topic, but uh,
Absolutely.
perception itself is when it comes to perception, a lot of people again try to go externally. What do I look like on social media? How am I coming across on social media? How are people receiving me? That's the first thing that we look at, right? Like how we dress is a form of perception, like all of that, and it matters. But in order to understand how to show up on social media, in order to understand how to dress, in order to understand how you should talk, you need to have your own perception of yourself. You need to dial that in. Who am I? And have that clear. If you can't come up with a clear answer of who you are, what you believe in, what your characteristics are, that's the disconnect. It's not
Absolutely.
what you put on social media. You can curate stuff, you're going to continue copying other people's work and you're going to continue to have this mixed messaging and this mixed clarity of who and what you're trying to do because you're trying to go after something by being someone that you're not. So in order to create a perception, you need to first be authentic to yourself. In order to be authentic to yourself, you have to understand yourself. And then when you understand yourself, because it's going to be so new, you have to develop the confidence to own yourself.
That's
Then,
where the whole logo for the podcast and everything came in, and my whole brand of Savage and all that stuff. The logo is literally, something that looks beastly, savagely, a gorilla, right? In a tie, in a suit, with a hat on. Because I've worn a hat with a suit before, and had people tell me you can't wear a hat with a suit, and I said, I'm doing it. What are you talking about? You can't wear a hat in a professional setting. I've sat down with a $6 million client with a hat on. Guess what? He had a hat on too. He didn't care, right? You can push boundaries if it's who you are,
mhm,
and that's something you said earlier too that I wanted to get to before we get too far off track. After auditing the thoughts, you said creating your reality. I want to
mhm,
jump into that real quick before we get too far away from it and run out of time. But that creating your reality, I want you to go into that too.
mhm. Creating, I mean, that's a big one too. Creating your reality has a lot of pieces. So your self perception, your emotional state, your mindset, your behaviors, all of that factor into creating your reality, right? And then, of course, your experiences and all that. But for the sake of the conversation, you need to understand yourself. When you understand yourself, you can then audit, am I holding true to being this person with my behavior? Am I holding true to being this person with my thoughts? Am I holding true to being this person with my actions? Am I being true to being this person with my emotions? Right? So now we have something to audit, right? We talk about auditing. So creating your reality, whatever reality that is, understand yourself. We love Taylor Swift because she's confident. She owns who she is. We love certain people because they own who they are, not what they do necessarily or, anything like that. I'm sorry. We don't love them because of who they are. We love them because of how they hold themselves. Let me clarify that. Um, so who they are is irrelevant, but how they hold themselves to who they are is what attracts us. Right? So because they understand themselves so much and they so wholeheartedly believe in what they do, they just do it with this exceptional joy. And it comes out. Right? So if you watch The Rock working out, how many of us want to work out? How many of us see
Not
working out
many.
as a joy, as a chore? How many of us like go to leg day and we're like, already before we even get in there, like having these negative thoughts and negative emotions with our workout, right? But then you see The Rock, and he's so excited to be in the gym. He talks about how he loves it and he has this joy and this radiation coming off of him when he's training. And you could just see like this whole other persona that you just, like, I wish I had that come through, right? And his reality is a reflection of that, right? So he loves working out because he understands that this is part of who he is. Working out is part of who he is because he understands that working out is going to help him to have the thoughts, the emotions, and the behaviors he needs to create the life that he wants. And so he utilizes this external source of training and working out to elevate his strength internally with his emotions and his behaviors and his mindset to then create his reality. And so this is something that I teach a lot of my fitness clients. Like, you're coming to me because you want an external source right now, but by the time I'm done with you, you're going to have an internal source, right? And a lot of fitness trainers preach this because we understand this because we've gone through this. When you can kind of latch onto something that can help you externally, you can then start to move it in internally and move it outward. So creating your reality is completely up to you, right? Because what is reality? It is nothing but a combination of actions, decisions, and choices made in one day. And then that starts to add up to create our next level reality, right? So let's talk about an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur who wants to make more money, well, if you're going to be an online entrepreneur, then your action should be on social media, right? So the first thing is, are you posting every day? Because that is part of your work, right? Again, I just had a conversation with a client and I was like, hey, so you're sitting here saying that you're an online coach and yet you're not posting on social media every day. That is your job. You are not acting like a CEO. And yet you're sitting here telling me that you own this business, that you have this reality. No, that reality is only in your mind. The reality that you're living in is not you being a CEO. You're not. And that's why they say, your higher self. You're not actually stepping up to your higher self with your behaviors. And this is where the audit comes in, right? We're coming full circle here with all of what we're talking about. So to have your reality, there's so many components that you have to move in together. So if you want to move out of this comfort zone, if you're in this plateau, if you're stuck in whatever it is in your fitness, in your business, in your, moving up the ladder in your corporate job, ask yourself, why do I have this reality? Right? If your reality is, I wake up every morning and I'm tired and I hate my job and my wife is bitching and I just want to, end the day before it even starts. Why? What actions did you take the day before? What behaviors did you have the day before? What thoughts did you have the day before? Okay. How did you see yourself the day before? Like, all this plays a role, right? So if I see myself as someone who is successful, do you think that I'm going to be showing up in a room and not standing tall and speaking out. And this is, why you reached out to me, right? This is why this is my second time on here, because I believe that I am a successful person wholeheartedly and I show up that way. And so it's why I'm requested. I was telling my friend, I was like, yeah, I'm usually requested multiple times on podcast because of how I show up, because of how we speak, right? Now, had you met me 10 years ago, you and I would not be talking, right? That was not my reality back then. I had to understand and audit what I was doing that generated my reality. And then I had to make the changes to change my reality. And that goes with everything we're talking about: auditing your emotions, auditing your thoughts, auditing your behaviors, auditing your choices, not being overwhelmed by them and actually making them, and being honest with yourself. Brutally, brutally honest. Because the reality of it is, you feel the truth, but your words deny your emotions. And this is what keeps you stuck. Because you're like, no, I'm doing great and I'm successful. And your emotions are saying, I'm not. You're really not. And that's an indicator of something is missing. Because if you really were and you truly believed it, all the actions, all the behaviors, all the choices would add up.
I love this
And that,
whole audit concept of this is where it, real change is going to come from the audit
mhm,
process. Again, emotionally,
yep.
as well as thought, like you thinking and everything, your actions, your choices, auditing all of those things. So, like for me, it would be if I'm going to be honest with myself, it has to be on the emotional side because I know and can acknowledge that's not my strength. Emotions are not my strength. I can admit that for sure. So I love this whole premise of audit and internal thinking of s- and, and I guess why I love it is because again, for me, perspective is everything, right? I love to talk about perspective, and perspective is everything. And I think that this gives you perspective. One, it's going to give you direct perspective of what you're thinking and what your actions were. It's going to give you that direct perspective, but it'll also allow you to take a step back and see it from this, third party view, the old outer body experience type of thing,
Mhm,
which is what I talk about all the time. Is like how do other people perceive it, or but also how. And I know you've said this before. It's like I'll say things sometimes, and then I'll go back and correct myself because I understand that that's not what I should have said in the moment. And I
mhm,
think that this whole audit concept of going and auditing and everything gives you the ability to see your patterns. Either that's destructive choices, self-sabotage like you said earlier, or whether it's just a pattern of not making choices,
mhm,
or a pattern of ignoring your emotions, or a pattern of blaming people. Oh, that course was terrible, or my boss is holding me back, or this and the other.
mhm,
I love this whole concept of the auditing making a true difference because again, I think that it gives you that different perspective than what you have just day to day.
mhm, mhm. 100%. And if you have a hard time auditing yourself at the beginning, which a lot of people do, and I know I did, when you find support in a coach that resonates with you, or a mentor that resonates with you, that has a very similar approach, um, you get a lot out of it. And it's so eye-opening. But disclaimer, it's very triggering. It's very triggering when you have a mentor and a coach who has a no BS approach and tells it like it is and calls you out. You're going to feel a lot of different kinds of ways at the beginning until you, again, learn to regulate your emotions and actually process your thoughts to understand what's really happening. And I get this a lot too when I work with people. They're like, man, when I worked with you for the first, month, I quit because I was so triggered. But now, a year later, I understand. And had I kept working with you, I would have been a lot further along because you would have pushed me to understand. Because I don't let people, I call people out on their BS right off the bat. Right. And I'll see things that a lot of people don't see and connect things like we talked about with, your behavior in this conversation. and what that really means. And when you have an understanding of what that really means, you have this eye opening, this breakthrough moment that we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah, I think that that's a perfect full circle moment. So, man, there's a lot to unpack here, guys. I think I'm gonna go like grab a tissue box or something and like cry myself to sleep or something because I got auditing to do with my emotions. But Alex, why don't you just tell everybody where they can find you, all the social media stuff. We'll link it down the bottom too, but just shout out your businesses, shout out your social medias, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so Alex Garzaro is pretty much my handle anywhere. Um, and then I have a few different businesses. I have the Social Vibe, which is a DJ production company. I have the Grind Body Shop, which is another fitness company. Um, don't be afraid to message me. I talk to all my people. I am in my DMs, not my assistant. It's something that I really love to do. I love to be around people. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Perfect. So if you're looking to cry and learn about why you suck at stuff, she's got you. Y'all hit her up, but not in like a crazy way, people. She said her DMs. Don't be in her DMs like that. Y'all better calm down. All right. Next time, we're gonna have another one. I don't know what we're talking about next time, but guess what, guys? This is just the path to change.